We promote the ideology of work and suppress our natural desire to play. Play is literally how we learn ourselves, it's how we learn each other, and it's also how we learn about the possibilities and also the boundaries of the world. Playfulness is not the opposite of professionalism.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will become who I've always been.
Welcome home, inspired entrepreneurs. Today's conversation surprised me because when we hear the word play, I think a lot of us immediately think childish, like it's optional, something we get to do after the work is done. But what if play isn't actually pulling us away from great leadership? What if it's one of the things that helps us access it? Today's conversation is with Mia Sundstrom. She's the CEO of the National Institute for Play and the granddaughter of play researcher Dr. Stuart Brown. She's spoken around the world on the science and power of play, helping leaders, teams, and organizations rethink creativity, connection, learning, and innovation in a world increasingly driven by pressure and burnout. We're talking about what happens when entrepreneurs disconnect from the very things that make them creative, connected, and fully alive. This completely challenged the way I think about productivity, performance, and leadership. So let's dig in.
Mia, you've grown up around play, around this work. It was the world you grew up in. What was that like growing up?
My grandfather is Dr. Stuart Brown. He's the founder of the National Institute for Play, and he got into this work by studying mass murderers and recognizing that they all lacked childhood play. That is the foundation. The work of my grandfather and the play science in his career really inspired my mom, who's his daughter, and my dad to take a little bit of a risk and to put me in a play-based learning environment and to trust the research. I feel very grateful for that because it is foundational to who I am. And I developed a love of learning and a curiosity and a natural born sense of optimism for the things that were possible in the world because of that play-based learning environment. They also put me into the sport of gymnastics, which was a ton of fun. I just loved it. I loved the feeling of flipping and of flying through the air. That was a great outlet for me to just experiment and try and learn. And that led me through a really fulfilling career through elite level gymnastics, where I ended up with a full ride scholarship at the Division I level. And I competed for 5 years and then coached for a few years after that at the Division I level. So sports is really a central part of my play.
Was there ever a time where you lost the will to play?
Yes. We live in a highly outcome-driven, highly pressure-filled sports world, especially as you gain levels and advance through sports. That's our culture in America. And that doesn't mean that everything is wrong with that, but it has a tendency when your sport becomes a little bit more of a job to stamp out the play and have a lot more emphasis on this is a job, it has outcomes related to it. I think slowly over time, I started to focus a lot more on those outcomes and defining what success looked like based on my scores and results and all of those things. When you do that too much, it can you out. And I wouldn't say I ever burned out to the degree that I was like, I want to stop. This isn't fun anymore. But it just started to lose that edge of playfulness. I also had a lot of injuries. I wasn't able to train and to compete and to do what I loved. My play felt like it was gone and I didn't feel like myself. It was part of my identity. I had to work through those things. And it wasn't until my last year of gymnastics that I let go of any outcome related goals and any mental tool that I had taught myself to handle the pressure, whether that was pre-routines or visualization or anything like that. And I just let all of that go and I just play. And that's all I told myself before I competed in any moment of practice. And I competed with the most freedom and some of the most success that I had found. I was doing it for the play.
How do you bring play into an area of your life where normally you wouldn't think of play?
It's hard. It's really hard. I think we have to be so adaptable as humans, and play teaches us that. It teaches us to learn and to fail and to keep moving forward in a safe environment. so that we have those skills to fall back on when it's a little bit less playful or when we face like really real challenges. What it comes down to is play can be a mindset too. We like to think of defining play as a state, but also as a trait. So this cognitive disposition of playfulness, of showing up in the world with this sense of curiosity and creative problem solving. For instance, when an athlete gets injured, how can you still honor and create challenges for yourself? If an athlete is competitive, if I have a lower body injury, I'm going to try and do one extra pull up a day and create like a little challenge and make the rehab fun and interesting. I ruptured my Achilles at the end of my career, and we had this ramp by our strength and conditioning room. And each day I would come in on this scooter, and I had this obstacle course set up for the scooter, and I would go down the ramp in like aero mode as fast as I could. And we would measure the distance that I would make every day.
When we think of play, we think of children, right? We think of playgrounds and they're outside playing imaginary games. But when you bring it into the business world, what can we play with? Creating games,
Yes.
creating challenges that can be fun, igniting curiosity, being curious in places where you might normally shut down. When we hear the word play, it really can sound almost optional.
We really misunderstand play as a society as a whole. We dismiss it as childish, as frivolous, as a waste of time, as something to be done when the real work is over. That could not be more wrong. And I just want to explain why that is on a biological level first, because that's what gives us the permission to prioritize it. There was a leading study done by a neuroscientist named Jacques Pangsep, where he removed the cortex of a group of rats and he compared them to a control group. What he found is that both groups of rats played the same way. He was able to conclude that play is a primary brain circuit emotion that is embedded in our subcortex, the most ancient part of our brain, meaning that it is inherent, not learned. So we are born knowing how to play. Before we even know how to walk or talk or engage, play is literally how we learn ourselves. It's how we learn each other. And it's also how we learn about the possibilities and also the boundaries of the world. It's how we start to make sense of things on a biological level. Now, because of that subcortical location, play is there as a primary driver for humans from birth until death. So we can think of it on the same fundamental level that we think about getting a good night's sleep or good nutrition. It's fundamentally part of being human. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you're like, notice it pretty quickly. You can't be at your best, maybe one day, maybe 2 days later. Play deprivation can actually have some of the similar consequences, but we're not trained to be like, why don't I feel very good? Maybe I didn't play enough 3 weeks ago. That's not how we understand play. That's how fundamental play is. We like to think of it like oxygen. So play is everywhere around us, totally vital to life, and yet we don't really notice it or appreciate it until it's missing. And if you really want to think about how fundamental play is, you can think about a world without play. No art, no music, no sports, no awesome pranks, no fun memes to send. It's really bleak. But then the question comes, why do we do all of these things when they're seemingly purposeless? It's such a paradox. We do all these things, they're seemingly purposeless because this is an innate drive that is universal across all mammals in the world. And it's a way to connect us and to dissolve our differences and to remind us what we have in common and to help boost our creativity and our engagement, all of these benefits of play. And that is why play matters so much, not just for kids, but across the lifespan.
Play transcends language, like
Yeah.
music, like art. That excites me because I'm all about uniting humanity, celebrating what makes us uniquely human, all of us. To think that every person intrinsically have this potential for play, awe, for wonder, for joy. It just warms my heart. When someone starts looking at stepping into real play, not doing it to be distracted, not doing it to escape, what's happening?
The first thing is you hit on something really fundamental, which is the difference between play and escapism and play and addiction. There's this continuum, and there's a lot of things in our world right now that disguise themselves as play, but that actually aren't. What we can say is that play is something that has really long-term benefits and also can be really fun in the moment, whereas escapism isn't always an unhealthy thing, but there are many unhealthy forms of escapism that have long-term detriments. Same thing with addiction. So playing a video games are absolutely a form of play. There's a community aspect, there is the cognitive aspect, there can be so many different positive parts of video games. However, they have a high propensity to turn into addiction. When it's your only form of play and you're doing it hours on end, it's no longer play, it's addiction. We'll just talk about the elephant in the room of social media. Social media has a lot of things that make it feel like play. You lose track of time. It can evoke some positive emotions sometimes, make you laugh. It feels purposeless. But when we zoom out, what we have found is that social media actually has long-term detriments. It makes us feel lonely. It destroys our attention span. It's a huge time suck. All of these things specifically for our teens. There's still a lot more research that needs to be done on this, but has long-term detriment. So it doesn't meet the criteria for play. So we have to just watch for these warning signs in ourselves and in the people that we care about for when is it truly play. What happens for people when they're in this state of play? The first thing is they're fully present in the moment, completely deeply engaged in what they're doing, and almost like what we call a flow state. So play and flow are very intertwined. Their stress and their emotional defensiveness is reduced. This happens because the amygdala, which is the emotional processing center and stores memories to trigger fight or flight through our autonomic nervous system, it actually calms down. Our stress response is reduced when we're playing. So people have more confidence, more ability to take sensible risks, less self-consciousness, all of the things that inhibit us and hold us back, play sets us free from. See, this beautiful sort of freedom and authenticity is sparked when people are playing because of what happens in the brain in this way that it creates this safe space for those things. This happens while you're playing, but also outside of play and beyond the time you're playing. We categorize it in 4 ways: cognitive health, social health, physical health, and emotional health. So all of these core fundamental parts of being human, play supports. The other thing is play can be solo or social, but in the case that it's social, it's a really great connector. So it actually lights up our mirror neurons, which helps attune us to another person and builds this foundation of trust, which is a bedrock of community and belonging, which is a fundamental human need.
For those founders that are listening right now, and they're trying to solve problems, they're leading a team, they're looking for new ways to innovate.
First of all, I feel you because I've recently stepped into the role of CEO, and it's a tremendous responsibility and a ton of fun and a ton of pressure and all these things swirling around at once. And being able to quiet the noise, see through the noise, to be grounded and to feel your priorities and to be calm and to be centered is a constant challenge, but is so fundamental to good leadership. The first thing that I want to share with leaders is play really gives you, and the science of what happens in your brain when you play gives you the permission to prioritize play, even when you feel like you don't have a single second to waste. So play is not wasted time, right? It's actually time for your brain to recenter itself, to refocus itself on what matters most as a leader. If you can remember one thing from this podcast is just to give yourself the permission to play, because what it does is it primes your brain to be productive, to be engaged, to be creative. Give yourself the permission to be silly and to laugh and to make fun of your mistakes and to display those to the people around you. Playfulness is not the opposite of professionalism. You can still be professional and you can still be respected and you can still have a formality to you. And it's totally okay to laugh at yourself and to celebrate mistakes and to share the ways that you play with your team and to get to know the ways they play on a really human level. That invites psychological safety. That creates an environment that people are excited to be part of, where they feel like they're heard and they're seen and that they can take risks and be creative. And that drives innovation. As entrepreneurs and founders and people who are in leadership positions have been taught to have this facade all the time, play is not the opposite. Seriousness and play can be one and the same. It's okay to add in play to who you are as a leader. The juxtaposition that you can be playful and you can be serious at the same time is absolutely true. So give yourself the permission to be a playful leader because it's not taking away the seriousness. It's just creating a culture that people are excited to be part of.
You know, as entrepreneurs, we spend so much time trying to optimize everything. our systems, our calendars, marketing, our productivity. But what if one of the things we're actually missing is space? Space to think, to breathe, space to reconnect to ourselves, and space to create from inspiration instead of survival mode. Because leadership isn't just about strategy, it's about who you become while building the business. And that's why I created the Alignment Lab, not as another hustle container, but as a practice space for aligned action and leadership. A space where entrepreneurs can reconnect with clarity, creativity, accountability, intentional action, and the version of themselves they actually want leading the business. If this conversation is resonating with you and you're realizing you don't just need more tactics, you may need a different way of operating, come practice with us. You can find all the details in the show notes. Now, let's get back into the conversation.
The benefits of play overall in the workplace, we put into 5 categories. The first is it really drives innovation and problem solving. Play creates the grounds for creativity. 3M has a really playful culture. They've baked this in to what they do. And they credit a playful brainstorming session with 0 constraints with the invention of the Post-it note. That was born of play. Play in a work setting drives innovation and problem solving, right? It takes away the constraints that we often feel and lets us see beyond those to the next possibilities. It enhances team collaboration and trust. This is because of the way that it builds psychological safety and creates a safe environment for people to be authentically themselves. And there are tremendous benefits to people feeling and being authentically themselves. Therefore, it increases employee engagement and retention. So play creates this state of really strong presence and flow, right? It deeply engages us in what we're doing. Lack of engagement costs our workplace economy so much money every single year. Disengagement is a huge problem for so many organizations. So play, flip that on its head and creates a deep engagement and a sense of it builds adaptive capacity and resilience, this ability to fight through problems and feel like that's working. And then the last thing is it improves learning and skill development. So this is true for children, but it's still true for adults. We need to be lifelong learners to be good at our job. And when we learn through play, it really increases our memory and our retention and our skill acquisition. And so that's another huge benefit. So those are the 5 benefits of play in the workplace when we can leverage it.
At some point, I think most of us do drift from play. What have you seen about why that happens? What do we start to trade off when that happens?
Our society as a whole around the globe, we promote the ideology of work and suppress our natural desire to play. And then that trickles down into we have to prepare our kids for the work environment that we have created for our adults. So more testing, more coursework, less recess. We're stamping out on a cultural and societal level play at very young ages. That is not biological, that's cultural. It's this huge problem and misconception. And that's honestly why I do the job that I do, reset these misconceptions about play. We see that in the sports world, 70% of kids burning out of their sport by age 13 in the US because of this hyper-professionalization of youth sports and this emphasis on outcome-related achievements versus process-related achievements. We're seeing overscheduling, highly structured, less time for boredom and free play. We build these habits as kids. And then when we get to adulthood, oftentimes when we don't play, like we have to exercise those muscles of play. Otherwise, they lie dormant inside of us. And so that's what we start to see happen. And it's really sad. What we don't recognize is that play, actually doing something for its own sake, for the intrinsic motivation and not for a particular outcome, can actually help lead to mastery. Play isn't the opposite of good results. Play can actually lead us to the results that we want, whether that's good test scores, whether that's profit, whatever that is in our lives. Play is a means to getting there. We just don't see it that way.
When someone's always in go mode, I see that a lot with early stage founders, and they
Yep.
think if they stop, that they're going to get behind somehow. And then, of course, they keep pushing and producing, and then they burn out. What starts to happen in them, not just in their business, but in their body and their relationships? their sense of self?
First of all, I strongly relate to the go-go-goers. That is my natural tendency too. It's really hard to stop it. Ultimately, in every situation, in some way, shape, or form, leads to burnout. There is really good evidence of this. From a play deprivation standpoint, is cognitive rigidity, reduced adaptability, reduced resilience, reduced capacity to solve problems. We get really stuck in our little boxes and feel really constrained. Emotional dysregulation, so the stress gets out of control. We have a propensity for anxiety and depression, mood-driven behavior, even addictive predilections. Social incompetence, lack of empathy, a lack of ability to engage socially. We saw this in the study of my grandfather's mass murderers. Then you can add in physical health to that. As humans, we need to move our bodies. We have to exercise. It's part of our long-term cognitive, emotional, and social health. Exercise is fundamental to those things. When there's less exercise as a form of play, we see physical health detriments to that too. All of that leads to diminished overall well-being. A lack of engagement, that's where the burnout hits. So we aren't able to do the go, go, go and to continue to produce in a way where the outputs are actually beneficial to where we're trying to go. We get stuck in the noise, in the cycle, in the things that don't matter as much. For founders, there's a million things to do all the time, and we can get stuck in the immediate tasks and the notifications and the things that just constantly live on this like hamster wheel that we're never going to get free from, versus the really core, visionary, fun, creative, deep work that actually drives things forward in a business. We don't spend much time there because we're constantly being distracted. That distraction is where we see those cognitive, social, emotional, physical declines happen.
When play becomes part of a team's culture, what do you
Mhm.
see shifts in trust, creativity, communication, and performance?
Team collaboration and trust, and the retention and engagement, and the skill acquisition and memory, and the innovation and problem solving. Like, all of those things are fundamental, again, to the outcomes. Our world is talking so much about disconnection, disengagement, polarization, loneliness, all of these things that are inhibiting our ability to work effectively. And we're not talking about play as a root solution to those things. We know that disengagement is a huge loss of profit for companies, then that's a super innovative and important thing to invest in. So you want to drive profit, play is central to that. That's the shift that we need to make. We're living in this world that's continually going to be where jobs are getting replaced with AI, and where AI and automation is honestly leveling the playing field in a lot of ways, because we all have this crazy access to output and automation that can drive business results. But what's going to become the most important, most employable skill is the things that make us human that AI can't do. The ability to look someone in the eye and connect with them on a human level, to invite them into this positivity of emotion that creates social change and forms movements. All of these things that make us human are actually going to be our strongest asset in the working world. Play is what builds those things. If we really want to be visionary and forward thinking here, in the next 20 years, the most employable skill is not going to be coding or whatever that hard skill is. It's going to be that human edge that play gives us.
If someone listening can feel that they've drifted from that part of themselves, what's one simple way that they can begin to reconnect to play that actually supports who they're becoming as a leader?
The number one thing is to give yourself the permission to prioritize play and to tell yourself play is productive. The second thing is to think about your earliest childhood memories of playing. What is it that you loved to do deeply intrinsically before the world told you, here's who you have to be? Whatever that thing is, there's a good chance that it's still lying deep inside of you and that it would still be deeply intrinsically engaging for you. Reconnecting with your inner child and figuring out what that thing is. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer in terms of here's how you add play back in for you. You actually just have to get in touch with what that might mean for you. Doesn't mean it has to look that way for the people I love or the people around me. And the third piece of that is, once you have discovered what that is for yourself, is really to think about, okay, how can I not add more to my schedule, but transform what's there? Because often with exercise, especially, you're like, I don't have time. That is totally not true. If you have 30 seconds, that is enough time to play. And so it's less about adding it in and it's more about what can I add into my daily routine. I'm a mover. I actually stand on balance balls while I work because I find that totally fun and interesting. And it's like very playful to me while I'm working. Don't start big, start small with little changes that really honor who you are in play.
What I bring into my day with play, I'm naturally curious. I just started gardening last year. My little breaks are to go out into nature and get curious about my plants, all the animals running around and just seeing them frolic. Like you said, everybody's play style is different. It's like getting in touch with that, bringing it every single day. I mean, why wouldn't you want to have play in your life?
I absolutely love that way of playing. And that's like such a good tip for anyone who might have a similar play style to you. The easiest way that I have found to bring play back in as part of your routine is to come up with a song that you love, that you can't help but smile and dance to, and to put that on your playlist and to use it as your play cue. The reminder, did I play today? How am I going to play today? What does play mean to me today? And that's all you got to do is just have one song. Our brains are super good at associating music with memories and music with cues.
I love that. What's your song?
My song is Fight Song by Rachel Platten, and that's because I actually got a private concert from her where I got to sing that on stage with her, and it was like the coolest moment of my whole life. So that is now associated with a memory that I found playful and play for me.
Wow, that is
It was
awesome.
the coolest thing in the whole world.
How can people find out more about you, the organization, how to work with you?
The National Institute for Play, we're a nonprofit. Our website is nifplay.org. You can dive into so many resources there. We have science of play resources. We have a little quiz to help you understand your play style, leading researchers, and all sorts of information. We're also about really bridging the science with the practice. But if you're like, I want to add more play into my life, but I'm not sure how, we actually just launched our Live Playfully journal, 90 days of guided reflection and practice, 1 to 2 minutes a day to just help you make play more central to your life. It's awesome to do in groups of people so that there's accountability. We can offer a discount code for the listeners of this podcast for the journal. 100% of the proceeds for that are a donation to our nonprofit, which helps us to do the community work, the access to play work all over the world. We also partner with organizations to help them bring out more playfulness, whether that's in their operations or whether that's how do you infuse play into your brand. You can find it all on our website. What I'm most excited about right now is getting some feedback on our Live Playfully journal just because it's brand new.
Mia, thank you. Thank you to your grandfather for starting this legacy that you are now taking over. You're just such a bold leader and a beacon for a new way to be a leader.
Thank you for the kind words. That truly means the world to me. Thank you for the amazing work that you do and the way that you put other people into the light. It's absolutely inspiring. This was playful for me. I hope it was playful for you.
It's totally playful.
You know, I think what really stayed with me after this conversation is realizing how many of us entrepreneurs have disconnected ourselves from play in the name of success. We become so focused on producing and solving, achieving and holding everything together that we lose touch with the very things that make us creative, resilient and connected, and fully alive. What Mia said that keeps echoing in my head is playfulness is not the opposite of professionalism, because maybe play isn't distracting us from our best leadership. Maybe it's helping us access it, especially now in a world moving faster and faster, and with AI changing everything. I think our greatest edge as leaders is going to be our ability to stay deeply human, to connect, imagine, create, and to be present. If you want to learn more about Mia and the incredible work they're doing at the National Institute for Play, go to the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with another leader or entrepreneur who might need to hear that success in humanity, leadership, and play can actually belong together. Until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and don't forget to play. Welcome home. Welcome to the Inspired Entrepreneur.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will become who I've always been.
And because I care about you and want to keep things above board, here's the quick legal bit. The Inspired Entrepreneur podcast and content posted by Deborah Hartnett is presented solely for general information, educational, and inspirational purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast or website is at the user's own risk. It's not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional diagnosis or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay obtaining medical, mental health, legal, or business advice for any situation and should seek the assistance of qualified professionals for any such conditions or decisions.